If you build it, they will come. Yeah, right. Fellow coders, if you're full of amazing ideas and have created amazing products but can't seem to get them off the ground, welcome. This is the Coders Startup, the show where smart programmers come to learn what it really takes to create, market, and sell a brand new product, and most of all, make it profitable. Now here's your host, successful software entrepreneur, Trevor Page.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Coders Startup. As you heard the man in the intro with a booming voice introduce myself, I am Trevor Page, and basically I'm going to be joined today by my right-hand man, my number one, who's going to be sort of covering the marketing aspect of this podcast for as far as I can see. So his name is Carter Johnson. So Carter, give us a well-done little hello there.
Hey, how's it going?
Not too shabby.
Excited to be here, Trevor. You twisted my arm enough and finally convinced me to hop on this. So really psyched to get into this with you.
Yeah. So basically, this is the first time that I've done. So I have a podcast that I do myself about programming and teaching programming. But I realized that I really have a desire to talk about business. I can talk anyone's ear off when it comes to business. I know that Carter is very familiar with that fact. So I said to him, you know what? I want to start a podcast that targets programmers especially, because I have a programming background, and sort of teaches them the ropes and brings them through the journey of learning how to really start a business and how to be successful as an entrepreneur and not just a programmer, because I myself have firsthand experience with the evils of getting into business with just a programming background and no marketing or sales background whatsoever. So basically, what you're going to be learning in this show, Carter and I were talking a little bit before we hit the record button. We're going to be focusing a lot about the strategies and the tactics that go along with starting a successful business. So really, let's give a bit of an overview about business in general, Carter. And
Trevor, I guess this is a good time for us to release my disclaimer. I am not a coder. I am not a programmer. If you met me 3 years ago, you would know that I struggled with resetting my password on Gmail. So I've definitely come a long way as far as technology and that stuff goes. I know a little bit more than what I lead on to as far as just the entire tech side. But really my focus and my area is the business side. It's usually marketing and finance where my creativity kind of comes into play and really takes into effect. So I will not be able to relate as much as you, Trevor, as far as the technical side, but we'll definitely turn it up when it comes to the business side of things. Yeah,
man, and that's why I think this dynamic that we have works so well, and that's why I really wanted to bring you on to this podcast, because the programmers and the coders out there, I mean, they know how to program, they know how to code. I mean, if you don't know how to code, then you're probably listening to the wrong podcast. But I mean, that's going to be an assumption from my standpoint that you will already have a very strong background in programming. But like I said, the weak link for me and the weak link probably for you guys listening is going to be in your marketing and your sales. And I actually did a whole bunch of prep work for this entire show, where I actually interviewed a bunch of people from my past job, as well as I sent out something called a Hero query, which we'll talk about, I'm sure, in later episodes. That's more of an advanced tactic. But I got a bunch of people who I'd never met before who were also in the same position. They're being coders and wanting to start a business, but they just had no idea how to do it. And I picked their brains. And I said, starting now, let's say you want to start a business from scratch, you're just a coder, what do you want to learn about? So I have a whole bunch of different topics, regarding exactly that subject. So, I mean, I got everything from people saying, well, I have this look squirrel syndrome, the shiny object syndrome, where they will keep on building product after product after product and not getting anywhere. So that's a big problem I'm hearing. People actually having no idea how to launch a product. That's a very big concern. I mean, how do you create a product and then launch it? Things like, when should I quit my job and go full time as an entrepreneur? How do I even start a business? How do I identify a passion? How do I build a minimum viable product? What should I even charge for my product? So these are all very common questions that not just programmers have, I'm sure anyone has, but that's exactly what we're going to be addressing in this show. So before we go any further, I know for me personally, myself, when I listen to podcasts, I'm always confused as to who's talking. So I think the real good way for you guys to understand who it is that's talking right now is the man with the deep, booming, sexy voice. That's the marketing man. That's Mr. Carter Johnson. So give again the little booming, sexy voice for us, Carter.
Oh man, you're cracking me up. I used to have teachers that told me I should go into radio, and it was kind of ironic because right by our school there was this giant billboard that said ugly kids should go into radio, and it was like advertising a local radio station. And I don't know, yeah, some limiting beliefs or self-sabotage probably stemmed from having teachers tell me that. But I'm glad you enjoy my voice, Trevor.
There you go.
Yeah.
Hey, you can say, "Look at me now." I'm doing internet radio, aka
well, look at me now.
Podcasting. Yeah. Beautiful. So yeah, that helps. I mean, and obviously the person without the booming, sexy voice is Trevor Page. So that I'm the programmer, he's the marketing dude. Together, we are the Coder Startup. So welcome. So I guess let's give them a little bit more of a background on ourselves. Do you want to go first and sort of give them an idea of who Mr. Carter Johnson is?
Yeah, I'd love to. So who is Mr. Carter Johnson, as you say, Trevor? Well, I went to school studying finance and entrepreneurship. Got a double. I double majored in those, and when I was still in school, I started a moving company. Corporate and household goods movers. It went somewhat well. My partner and I were able to sell the company and exit onto other things, and it was a great arena, so to speak, for my business training, because I had to learn a lot just on the fly, on my feet, spending a lot of money trying to figure things out and really just putting, literally blood, sweat, and tears into the business. After that, I did a few different startup type things, mostly in the tech space, usually, partnering with a coder like yourself, Trevor, or someone else that really could complement my skill set. Today, what I focus on primarily is helping businesses with their online marketing, whether that's SEO or SEM or just, in general, creating an entire sales funnel. That's really where I excel. I'm also involved with a new company, which we'll probably bring up at one point, but it's pretty cool. It's a national brand that I was able to acquire a fair chunk of the business just through my knowledge of marketing and what I could bring to the table. So yeah, I absolutely love business. I'm one of those guys. I'll talk your ear off, just like you, Trevor. It's fun for me, even when it's frustrating. I love the grind. So I'm really excited that we're going to be spending, an hour a week or however long it goes together, talking this stuff out. It's going to be a lot of fun.
It is going to be fun. I'm so excited. So, and I'm sure you guys heard, Carter buzzes off these or shoots off these buzzwords that I'm sure you guys may not understand or know about, because I know I didn't. I mean, things like SEO, SEM, these are words that, even though they're related to technology and especially Google, I had no idea what they were. So again, we're going to be getting into those things. SEO actually stands for search engine optimization, and it's all about sort of gaming the system, more or less, hypothetically speaking.
You make me sound evil.
That's right. It's not really gaming the system. There are ways to get ranked onto Google, to get first in the position on Google. So if someone searches for your particular topic or your keywords, you will show up on Google in the first slot. And I had a good example of that maybe I'll go into for a moment and then come back on topic. My uncle actually started a company on his own. I forget, it's something to do with not real estate. It's about managing Property. So I guess it's a property management type company. And he called me up one day because he knew I had some background in not programming, but marketing and business now. And he said, well, Trevor, I've started up this business and I really want to start to get found because I'm not being found. I'm not getting any traffic on my website. So can you help me? Can you get me to the first spot on Google? I created my webpage like a week ago and it still hasn't appeared in the first spot on Google. So I said, that's the misconception that a lot of people have. Getting to the first spot in Google for a keyword is actually very, very difficult. So he was quite shocked when I said, you're only a week in. Yeah, you're going to be ranked absolutely nowhere, and you might still be ranked absolutely nowhere after a year's worth of work, unless you're smart. Anyway, so he was quite shocked to hear that. So
yeah, absolutely.
Anyway,
and one of the things that we'll probably bring up, if not this episode, probably not this episode,
Yeah.
but down the road, one of the things that I do currently is just finding businesses where it's almost an arbitrage opportunity in the sense that they're great businesses, great products, but their marketing, especially on the SEO side, is nowhere near getting the traffic that it deserves. And I think it'll be a lot of fun, especially for coders, to kind of dive into that side of business and figure out some of the things that can really help them getting more eyeballs on their products and services. So
yeah, man, it's so much fun. It's gonna be a huge learning journey, and that's, for me, that's what it's all about. I can't get enough of learning. So all this stuff was brand new to me, and it's obviously probably gonna be brand new to you guys listening. So I'm sure you're gonna be just as excited as I was. Now, one last question for you, Carter, before we move on and talk a little bit more about what it is that I've done. Let the crowd know how many full-time jobs you have held where you have worked for someone else.
Full-time or part-time?
Full-time.
Well, I think, again, I need to be completely transparent. It's not all peaches and roses, and I've had more side hustles. And one of the things that I'll probably write up on my blog one of these days is the art of side hustles, because I've had more side hustles than anyone I know. But I have not ever held a full-time job. So I don't know what that's like. But sometimes I wish I do, because I'd love to know what a paycheck feels like in the sense when you're not writing it yourself. But yes, I have had numerous side hustles to keep me afloat. So yes,
Beautiful.
No full-time job though.
And that's awesome. That was something that struck me as very unique in my own mind. So that really speaks volumes to, from my perspective, what I think the kind of character that Carter is, the Carter Johnson that you hear with that sexy booming voice. He has not had a full-time job. His entire life has been dedicated to just exactly what we're going to be talking about in this podcast. So that's why I think there's no better man for the job, for teaching not only me but you guys too about business. So in any case, there you go. Good intro to Carter Johnson. So I mean, for myself, I worked as a programmer professionally for about about 5 years, I think. I started off obviously as an entry-level type programmer. I did Java as sort of my cup of tea, and I went on through to a few companies through intermediate, and then became a senior software engineer about at the 4 or 5 year mark. So that was pretty quick for me. I had a pretty quick ride through the ranks, if you will. I rose up pretty quickly because they thought I was a good programmer, and they thought I was a good team player, and I mostly loved my job. So it wasn't until I really got to sort of what I call now the end of my programming career when I wasn't really being challenged anymore. And for me, I'm very driven by learning. I don't know if you guys have picked up on it yet, but I'm very driven by learning. And I wasn't learning anymore in the job. They had me doing sort of maintenance coding and very little enhancements. I had very little involvement in any new technologies. The company was growing, and it was very stuck and set in its ways with using older technology. So I was just quite stagnant, and I said, you know what? I need more. So I stumbled upon a podcast, and I'm sure you'll hear us refer to this gentleman quite often, but I stumbled upon the Smart Passive Income podcast with someone by the name of Pat Flynn, who I'd highly recommend you also listen to if you're interested in business and whatnot. Everything, I shouldn't say everything, but most of what I know, I started by learning through Pat Flynn. And so he has a podcast that's just dedicated to teaching business to everyone, to entrepreneurs, to, broad spectrum type thing. And it's a very good introduction to coding, or not to coding, or not, for the love of God, for entrepreneurship. Clearly I'm a programmer because I'm talking all about it. So I found out about this podcast stuff, and I got absolutely hooked. And I started listening to him every day on my ride into work and back. And then I started, branching out and finding more entrepreneurs who are, hosting these amazing podcasts about business. And I was it was like a sponge. I was, soaking it all up. When it finally culminated into me saying, you know what, I'm going to actually quit. I'm going to quit my full-time job and pursue entrepreneurship instead full-time, and which is what I've been doing since, I quit my job October of 2012. So I'm very close to hitting my 2-year anniversary as a full-time entrepreneur, and my God, have I learned a lot since I started. I look back to the man I used to be, and it's amazing what you can learn in 2 years. So, like I said, hopefully we can provide somewhat of the same learning journey for you guys. And I guess we might as well just start launching into the good stuff, right? I'm sure these guys are tired of hearing us talk about who we are and whatnot. I'm sure they want to start diving into some good stuff.
And I think, Trevor, you brought up I don't even think you meant to, but Pat Flynn, an awesome resource. And one of the things, one of the biggest services I think we can do to everyone listening out there is not only talking about these strategies and tactics and these action items, but also passing along those really amazing resources that help elevate us in any shape or form. And I mean, that's been a huge part of the growth and the learning curve for me, is just coming across the right resources and really figuring out what it is that you should invest your time in as far as what information you're putting in your brain. So yeah, that'll be really exciting to pass along those resources as well.
Boom. That's what we're here for. Because obviously you can't get it all in one spot. Otherwise, we would have the monopoly on the whole market. So we'll pass along those good stuff as we find them. So I don't know. I mean, where should we really begin? I mean, we were sort of talking beforehand, and obviously tackling the topic of how do you start a business is a very large one, a very broad one. But I think really, what I kind of wanted to focus on maybe was one of the big strategies, the main strategy, the main focus that you I would think you should always hold at the forefront of any actions that you're taking, any directions that you're going. And that is to focus on building what is called an email list. So I don't know, do you want to talk about that and talk about how important that kind of stuff is?
Yeah, I think that's really relevant, especially, speaking to coders and programmers. You already have the skill set to set up some sort of templated web page as far as collecting emails go, where a lot of people who start in business, you tell them that and they're like immediately deer in the headlights, like, how do I do that?
Exactly.
Like, is that what GoDaddy sells? Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? So basically, I think that would be a great starting point. And let's hop into it.
Yeah, man. So like for me, I heard this term email list before. I had heard it when I first started. But to be honest, I'm a little bit ashamed now, but I realize that's the process of learning. I didn't know what an email list really was or why it was important. So what is an email list? So I mean, is there a definition that you have in your mind about how to answer that?
Well, I think one of the that's such like a loaded question, and there's so many angles to approach. I think one of the biggest things for me, the transition that happened when I started understanding the power of a list. If you have a list, if you have an audience that you can consistently email with great value, eventually you're going to build up enough trust where you can monetize that list, in the form of either, selling your product, selling an affiliate product, or there's all sorts of ways to do that. But yeah, an email list is basically, and there's, tons of theories on this. Are they actually leads, or are they prospects? And we can talk about the difference there. There's all sorts of things that go into an actual email list. So I don't know. You'll probably be able to articulate a better,
Yeah. So
well-rounded definition.
So again, I mean, I hit on the point where, there's a lot of terms, again, that Carter hit there that you probably won't be familiar with, things like affiliate products, et cetera, et cetera. Again, we're going to get into all that throughout the entire course of this podcast, so no worries there. But I mean, for me, an email list is exactly what it sounds like. You're collecting the actual email addresses from your potential customers. So you're grabbing their information and storing it in your database, so that you can email them later, send out an email blast, and hit your whole list with whatever it is that you want to talk about, whether it's selling a product, selling a service, just giving value and talking about whatever topic it is that you want to discuss with your audience. That's the forefront and the center of your entire business. Your actual, I think I read, I think it was in the book by Jeff Walker. He just released one called Launch. It's about launching a product. He says the success and the revenue of your business can be directly tied to the size of your email list, which is
absolutely
amazing to me. I mean, if you ever left-brained and wanted to boil down to one thing, it's the size of your email list. Size matters there. The more people you have on that list, the more money you are going to make. And when I first started, I understood that. I heard that. I was taught that. I heard that same thing from many, many people. It's the list that matters. The size of the list matters. But I wasn't seeing success. My email list was growing. Like I said, I'm in the programming niche. I teach programming, specifically Java, to people, and I built up my list around that. But I wasn't seeing any substantial sales from the email list directly. So there's not only just the email list and how important it is to grow it, but also how you use it. Totally. There's definitely, it's a loaded topic here. But, I mean, some of the basics are, you might ask, well, how the heck do you get someone to subscribe to your email list? How do you even implement this thing, and how do you use this email list? How do you send out emails to everybody easily? So all these sort of questions are what came up in my mind, and really what it came down to was the tools. So this is the tactics part of the talk, I guess, where we're talking about the tools that we can use to get this overall strategy of building an email list implemented. So for myself, I use something called MailChimp, which is available at MailChimp.com. But I mean, do you have any good examples of tools that you use to build your email list?
Oh, I got a ton.
Okay.
I don't know where. Do we want to talk about actually delivering and opt-ins? Is that probably the first thing? I think, one of the bigger concepts that we should probably hit on right now, and what really, I mean, when I incorporated this into any of the marketing that I was doing, I saw a huge uptick, and I wish somebody had taught it to me earlier, is the whole value exchange. So creating something that is really, really useful for your audience, and actually using that as a lead generation type of tactic. So can we dive into that maybe for like 2 minutes, Trevor?
Sure. I mean,
we can talk about that.
Again, they might not know what a lead is. If you want to give a quick overview of that as well.
Yeah. So, when you're building this email list, the emails that you collect, the best way to actually get people to opt into your email list is giving away something amazing as far as content or value goes. So, a lot of times that could be, let's say you were, throw out a random industry, Trevor.
Well, let's focus on maybe what it is that I'm doing. So I teach programming.
Okay, so you teach programming. So Trevor, for example, could offer a top 10 guide as far as the best tools that every up and comer programmer needs to be successful. And he's offering a ton of value in just creating a PDF download, or you could put it in a Google Doc, whatever. And when people come to his website, if they, type in their email address, in exchange, they get this top 10 download. Doing that, you're going to see a ton of people opt into your email list versus if you just put up a random, hey, stay updated on what I'm doing. So you really want to create some sort of value-driven type content that resonates with your audience, that you can put out there and offer in exchange for their information.
Beautiful. So, that's exactly, you nailed it right on the head there. That's exactly what I do. So I have a blog, and it doesn't really matter. I'm sure we'll talk about the blog that I have, but it doesn't really matter what it is. But what matters is on this blog, I give away my content. My content is all about teaching people how to program. So I've written a bunch of blog articles that all revolve around the different topics of programming from step one to step done, essentially. So you can literally go on my blog and learn how to become a Java programmer. You learn the core Java stuff, and you go all the way into, the presentation layer stuff, the MVC type design patterns, what tools to implement, what frameworks, how to integrate into your data layer with your database. You can literally learn all this on my blog. So that makes it a very valuable place for people to go to and to seek out knowledge from. But then as well, I offer what Carter was talking about. At the end of my blog posts, I will say, hey, if you like my stuff, join my mailing list, because not only will you will receive updates about when I put out new content, but you're also going to receive the top 10 tools that every successful Java programmer uses in today's programming society, or whatever you want to call it. So that is the value that I'm giving away to sort of bait them into giving me their email address. And what happens is that process of them giving me their email address in exchange for the product or the value that I'm delivering, like this top 10 tools, it's an actual... Sorry, it's an actual... I've lost my train of thought. I was looking at you.
I apologize. When a person in my house came around the corner, and I was like...
I'm looking at Carter right now. I'm seeing him. He's like, shh. And I was like, what's going on? Do I need to be quiet? Anyway, sorry, let's get back on topic. So I was talking about... delivering the tools. Okay, so the process that they have of giving me their email address in exchange for this value is called opting in. So if you weren't familiar with what an opt-in was, that's exactly what it is. It's a process of them giving me their email address in exchange for something, and then hopefully, if I'm doing it correctly, they're going to do something called a double opt-in, where they will say, give me the product, here's my email address, and I will email them via the tool that I use, and the tool will say, are you sure you want to subscribe to this list? And then they will have to say, yes, I confirm that I do want to subscribe to your list. That's called a double opt-in process, and that is actually a very, it's a recommended way of building your email list, because you don't want to just randomly toss people onto your list and then hammer them with emails, because as of, I forget what month it was, I think it was June or July of 2014, in Canada specifically, if you were to email someone without their explicit permission, if you were to just email someone out of the blue, which is called a cold email, without having their permission of being on your email list, you can get some serious fines. And I mean, they get they get up to like $2 or $3 million, and including jail time in Canada now. So they're wow. Very, very strict. And I mean, yeah, I should say I'm from Canada, and Carter's from the States. He's living in Boulder, Colorado. I'm near Toronto, Ontario. So yeah, Canada's very strict now with its laws. So the double opt-in process is very, very important.
And most of your email providers, which is what Trevor was referring to with MailChimp, they're going to offer that. It's going to be built into the system. So you have a technical background. You're going to know how to tweak some of that stuff, but most of it is pretty much comes in a box in the form of it'll take care of that for you. One tidbit that I wanted to chime in with, Trevor, that I thought really, really helped me, and I think it'll really, really help the audience out there, is if you're really trying to get a broad understanding of how the entire email marketing works, one really good tactic to do is go sign up for some people's list. So go to Trevor's site, or go to, I'm trying to think of who does it really well, like a Eben Pagan or a Perry Marshall, or one of these great internet marketers, and opt into their list. See what they're offering, see what they say in their emails, look at their calls to actions, and replicate what they're doing. Success leaves a roadmap, so you don't have to recreate the wheel, so to speak. You really can just copy what these awesome guys are doing, because they've already figured it out. They built fortunes, they built empires, on the backs of email campaigns, which is crazy to think of. So I definitely would recommend that. It's something I did, and it really helped me understand how list building works, and what type of things that I should be doing. So
yeah, and I mean, obviously you do the shameless self-promotion and say go to coderstartup.com and join our email list, and
there you go.
and have a look and see what it is that we're doing. But I mean, what I subscribe to with the email list is always to provide value. I mean, that is the foundation rule that you have to follow when you are building an email list, because it's so important. Building that email list is critical. So you want to maintain a good relationship with the people on your list.
And that reminds me, another excellent person who does it is Neil Patel. I am a huge fan of his site, and I literally will read his emails over reading my family members. Like, I don't know how he gets me, but it's because every email he's teaching me something I don't know, or he's talking about some research that him and his team did, something that is extremely valuable that I can implement in my business. And he does it better than anyone, I think, as far as just consistently providing value day in, day out to his email list.
So I'm going to have to write down all these things and put them on the show notes page. So if you've ever listened to a podcast before, you'll know that there's show notes. So ours are going to be available via codersstartup.com /1. That'll be episode number 1, like the number. And I'll put all the links into these people's websites where maybe you can opt in to their email lists, so you can see exactly what's going on. So who did you mention? You mentioned Neil Patel.
Neil Patel.
Eben Pagan.
Eben Pagan. Perry Marshall.
Pagan.
I mentioned your website. That's a good one. I don't. Did we mention this at the start? But I'm actually in the process of building up my own personal brand as far as my blog goes. So mcarterjohnson.com. You can take a look, subscribe to my list, and see what I do. So there's all these different resources out there, but definitely hop on those lists, take a look at what they're doing. I even like to keep a few different email accounts where I can segment and see what people are doing based on links I click and all this other stuff, which you can just tell I'm a marketing nerd, I guess. But it's fun for me.
Yeah.
So,
and I mean, that's exactly what you need to do, right? I'm definitely part of many email lists. One specifically right now is Frank Kern. I know all these names are quite overwhelming, but these are all superstar marketers, superstar marketers. Like Carter hinted at, these guys are making millions of dollars a year, sometimes even millions of dollars a month with the stuff that they're doing. So these guys know what the heck they're talking about.
I mean, Frank Kern, I think he holds the record for the biggest launch for a product. It was like 20 million in a week or something.
It's
I don't
ridiculous.
Know, but it's all through email marketing. Like, these guys are just ninjas, juggernaut ninjas as far as email marketing goes.
Yeah, and I mean, so another good topic to hit on before we sort of wrap things up is the concept of an autoresponder. So I mentioned, you can go, actually what I'll do is, to make it easy on you guys, you can go to, also I'll have this on the show notes page, the link to MailChimp. So you can probably go to codersstartup.com /MailChimp, and it's mail spelled out like an email. you'll be able to see exactly this program and how to use it. But inside of it, there's this thing called an autoresponder. So maybe we can talk a little bit about autoresponders and what they're used for and exactly, obviously what they are.
Definitely. And let's throw out a few other resources for them as well.
Sure.
If MailChimp doesn't resonate with them, a few ones that I am fans of. GetResponse, that's a good one, and I know a lot of our peers and stuff use that. Aweber is another good one. I think those are the big three that I hear the best.
Definitely.
From as far as entry level marketing goes. You definitely have the more complex tools, but there's no need in us talking about that right now.
Right. Cool. So yeah, for sure, I'll also put that in the show notes page. Again, coderstartup.com/1, and you'll see exactly what the heck it is that we are rambling on about. So
now, Trevor, is that a 1 in the number, or is that ONE?
That is definitely 1, the number. All of these show notes are going to be the actual numbers. I'm not going to be spelling it out for you. In any case, there you go.
All right.
So
awesome.
So yeah, autoresponders. Tell me what you know about them, Carter.
Well, so the beautiful thing about technology, and this is something that, again, 3-4 years ago, I had no idea, but you can set things up to automatically happen when something else happens, which I'm sure for the programming audience, that's like, duh.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Of course, I've been doing if statements since
Yeah.
I was 8 years old. But for a lot of the world, that is a mind-boggling concept. So autoresponders, when people come to your list, when they opt in, when they submit their information, you can have it set up to automatically deliver whatever offer it is. So again, the value content that you're delivering. And then on top of that, you can start a sequence of events. So something that I usually do is I try to really, I deliver the content that they requested, and then maybe 3 days later, maybe 4 days later, and you can customize all this, of course, I then deliver another really heavy-hitting value type of content. But you can put this on a sequence to the point where everything is automated when somebody opts into your list, and you can go even a step beyond that and get into where if certain events happen. So if somebody purchases a product, or if they click on a link, you can have all sorts of fun in these platforms like MailChimp and GetResponse and stuff.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you can do to maintain a relationship with your audience, because obviously it would be very tough to keep on sending out emails all the time, as whenever a new person joins your list. That would be very annoying. So for example, for me, I'm getting to a point where I'm seeing about 10 to 20 people a day signing up for my particular email list. And the way my autoresponder is set up, also it's called a sequence as well. You might hear that terminology as well. They mean the same thing, autoresponder or sequence. It will email them, the first hour that they join with a welcome message. And then in the following days, every few days, I'm giving them assignments. So I'm saying, hey, here's the first assignment that you should do and try out and work through for your Java programming, because they're signing up because they're interested in learning Java programming. And then a few days later, I follow up and say, hey, how did the assignment go? Did you do all right with it? And I ask them questions and try to get actual responses from them. I tell them, please respond to this email. I want to know how it's going. What's frustrating you right now about your learning journey? So these are all very amazing things that you can do, because one, you are establishing a relationship with your customers, or at least your potential customers. You are engaging with them. So when you engage with them and engage in a conversation back and forth, and you actually respond, you're going to generate a sense of authority. So they're going to see you as someone who they look up to and will seek out for knowledge. And plus they're going to know, like, and trust you. So this know, like, and trust concept is very, very important for someone to go from a potential customer to an actual customer. So the more people actually know, like, and trust you, the bigger the chance that you can turn them into customers, which is obviously the whole point of starting a business. So these are very targeted techniques that I use in my autoresponder that work for me while I sleep. So I don't have to worry about it. I set it up once. I set up the whole thing. It's not very difficult to do because, like I said, you can use the tools like MailChimp, Aweber, GetResponse, whatever it is that you feel like using. It does it for you automatically, and it is so bloody cool. And obviously, these tools are also used to send out email blasts to your entire list. So you literally don't have to worry about, copy pasting a bunch of email addresses into the to field of an email that you're sending out. No. You don't have to do that. This is very, very cool stuff. You just send out what the actual layout of the email should look like. You can put in like your header, you can put in your pictures and maybe your brand, and then you put in your actual message, and they actually will fill in a footer for you as well in the emails. They'll fill out like an automatic footer, which is, meets certain requirements for sending out emails. So you need to include like your address, which is unfortunate, but you do need to include your address for legal purposes, and so on and so forth. So it really saves you a lot of time using these tools when you are building your email list and building your relationship with your email list. So.
Totally. And let's, just to tie it all together, just to kind of recap everything. And so you can see the bigger picture of all this. So you have your product, your service, your plugin, your widget, whatever it is that you've created. And now that you have this email list, now that you're giving away some amazing piece of relevant content that your target market, which are the people that you hope to become your customers, now that you have them on a list, you're delivering this consistent value. They're reading your emails. Eventually, they're going to get curious about what this tool is that you have to offer, what this service is that you have to offer, because you have built up so much trust and you've consistently, stayed in touch via email. It's a great way to gain traction with your business. And something that we should maybe discuss next episode, Trevor,
Totally.
Is how in the world do you go about generating an audience when you're starting at ground zero? Because that was, for years I was stuck on that problem. And if we can shed some light on that, I think it'd be really, really valuable.
Absolutely. We're going to this is exactly what this podcast is all about. This is going to be the journey from, like I do with programming and teaching programming, this is going to be your step one to hopefully step done with respect to building a successful business that works for you instead of you working for it. Because that's the goal here is something called, I like to maintain something called passive income, which is income that I can generate while I'm sleeping, and it's not tied to the amount of hours that I have to work. But that's, again, a whole other topic that we'll get into later. And just a little hint of what's to come in the future.
So Trevor, I'm new to the podcast side of marketing. It's not something that I would consider myself a specialist in or anything like that. But if anyone out there listening is really interested in staying up to date on the next podcast that comes out, or just, leaving a review, how can they go about doing that for us?
For sure. So basically the best thing that you can do if you want to subscribe to our podcast is to find us in iTunes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to provide a link for you guys. It'll be codersstartup.com/iTunes. And what that'll do is it'll immediately forward you to our iTunes or podcast on the iTunes app. And you can click the subscribe button, which will be very important for you to do. So that will keep you up to date. As soon as there's a new episode that's released, you'll automatically receive it either on your smartphone or your computer. And you can even leave a rating and review if you go to I think it's called the rating tab within iTunes. Click on that, leave a rating and review, and maybe, hey, if we start to get some reviews pouring in, we can start to maybe cover some of those at the top of the next episodes and give a shout out to all those who actually leave a rating and review, because that really helps us get the word out about our podcast and gets it found by other coders like yourselves and gets them going on their journey to starting a successful business.
Absolutely. And also, I think like we said before, this is all about what you guys want to learn. So Trevor, is there a way that people can email you or email the show just to mention or bring up a topic that really is on their mind that they don't know anything about, but they've heard the words or they want us to dive into? I think that'd be a great just to have a list of ideas of topics that our audience wants to hear.
Sure, and I mean, I think what the best way to do that is, because right now, as it stands, I haven't yet set up an email account for the Coder Startup. It'll probably be something like Trevor at coderstartup.com. But the best thing that you can do is go to thecoderstartup.com and just join our email list, and then you'll be able to just reply to any of the emails that I send in our email list. That'd probably be the best way at this point in time to get in touch with us in the show and get your questions in.
Awesome.
Cool, dudes. So thank you so much, guys, for joining us for this first inaugural episode of the Coder Startup. And we look forward to seeing you in episode numero 2, number 2. Peace out.
See ya.